Hey, Divine Ones, and welcome to another Wellbeing Wednesday. I know this is a later time than I usually come on, but it's still officially Wednesday. And I wanted to come and share with you something that is very near and dear to me. So, if you're new to me, this is Wellbeing, the Wellbeing Show, my live show where we talk about what I've learned about what it takes to really be well and live well as a soul having a human experience. What I want to share with you today, for those of you all who are watching live or if you're watching by replay, what I want to share with you today is why disease isn't an enemy, but a mirror and an invitation instead. When I was first diagnosed with AIDS and kidney failure, I viewed them as enemies, and I waged war on them. I viewed them as something that was against me, something that was trying to take me down, pretty much, something that again was against me. And so I viewed it as something that I had to conquer, that I had to push against, I had to fight against. And so I waged war on them. I weaponized every diet that I could find, every healing modality I could find, every meditation I could find. Like, my healing journey, my healing approach was this approach of fighting against. Like, I wanted to win this war against kidney failure and AIDS. And the truth of the matter was I was losing. But, I may have won some small battles here and there. Right. So some of the diets I tried, they, made me feel a little better. They alleviated some of the things, but not all of the things. Some of the healing practices and modalities I did helped me out, a bit, but not all the way. And so I had this very push and pull, this very struggle and fight relationship with my body and with the diseases for the first few years in my healing journey. Until I hit this point in my healing journey where I got this understanding that two things. One, that my body was created to house the energy of who I really am. It was created to house my soul. Like, you've heard me speak a lot about that the body is not all of who we are. Right, it's a piece, just like you see an iceberg, and it's actually the smallest piece. It's probably like 5% or less. The biggest part of us is the soul, the energy, and it was created to do that. And the soul only creates, it only creates from a space of love and a space of joy. So this body was not created to attack. It was not created to war against me. It was not created to hate me. It didn't hate me. It wasn't against me. My body could only ever does love me. And when I began to understand that, even if I was in pain, even if it wasn't working like I wanted it to work, even if it didn't, quote unquote, look like how I wanted to look, it wasn't against me. And when I began to really tune in to my soul, the wisdom of my soul, I began to do more meditations and listen. I began to do more kind of channeling of my higher self. Hey, all you all watching. I began to really get a deeper understanding that the body has two functions. The soul created the body for two functions. Well, three functions. The first function is as the vehicle for which it gets to experience life. Right? This is the vehicle our soul uses for which it gets to experience this particular life experience and the perspective that this particular lifetime can offer. And once this lifetime is over, it changes. It goes back to, it releases the vehicle and goes back to the dimension of the soul, which is what we call heaven. So that's the first function. But the second function of the body is to be a messenger, to relay, to communicate to us, and really to communicate to us really how well we're doing, how well we're in relationship with who we really are and the energy of our soul, right? And so the body was created to communicate to us and to mirror back to us, right? Mirror back to us how we're doing. So when I began to understand that, what it changed for me in my viewpoint around how I approached illness and disease. And now how I teach people who come to me that are wanting help on their healing journeys from illness and disease is that your body is not against us when it gets ill. Illness is not a sign that our body is broken. It's not a sign that our body is betraying us. It's not a sign that the universe is punishing us somehow. It's not a sign that, again, that our body has gone haywire and it hates us and it's at war with us. It's not that at all. What it actually is, when an illness shows up for us, it is showing up to first indicate and mirror back to us that we have been living a life that has drained us of life force energy and kept us from living the life for which our soul incarnated here for. Right? So, you've heard me talk a lot about life force energy, and what life force energy really is soul energy. It's the energy of source, right? It's the energy of, which is the energy really of love, unconditional love. And when we're not living our truth, when we are living, when we're under a lot of stress, when have a lot of fear, when we don't feel good about ourselves and we carry a lot of shame, that drains and depletes us of life force energy. And life force energy is literally what the body needs to be healthy and to survive and to thrive. As a matter of fact, it is the number one determining health factor it's the number one determining factor of your health above everything else, above what you're eating, about how much you're sleeping, about all of that. Even though those things can affect life force energy, your life force energy and how much of it you have in your body is the determining factor of your health. And so when illness shows up for us, what it's really it comes first to mirror to us that the way we've been living our lives has depleted us too much of life force energy, the very life force energy we need to survive. So that's the first thing it does. It doesn't come as an enemy. It actually comes as an indicator. It actually comes as an indicator, just like the fuel light that comes on in our cars that comes on to say, hey, you've been running too long and you've been depleting your car of the fuel that needs to run well. And you need to stop what you're doing and fuel up. Illness is the very same thing. It's telling us we have been running too low on the fuel that our bodies need to thrive, and we need to stop the way we're living. Stop usually the lifestyle. And when I get to the second part, you'll understand that. Stop the lifestyle we're living and begin to live a lifestyle instead that fuels us with life force energy instead of drains and depletes it from us, right? And that's why it's the illness comes first as a mirror. It's mirroring back to us how we've drained our life force energy. So and I teach my clients, and this is something I had to learn for myself, that if you really listen to your body and you pay attention to the illness or the disease that you're having, it's a direct mirror of how we're draining your life force energy. It is not it's not trying to keep you in the dark. It's almost like very literally there. So for instance, for me, HIV and AIDS and how it mirrors, well, before I tell you that, how it mirrors back to you is basically how it makes you feel. Because we carry a vibration, which is basically an internal state of being, right? How we emotionally feel and the beliefs that we hold. We carry this vibration, and the disease is going to mirror back to us what that vibration is that we've been carrying. And what that basically means is the disease is going to make you feel more like you've been feeling for a long time anyway. Emotionally feel, not just physically feel, right? Not just it hurts, I'm in pain here, but how does it make you feel emotionally? Like I feel really tired and drained. I feel angry. I feel ugly, And so for me, looking at what was it mirroring back for me, right? So that's the first thing in my healing journey I had to look at. So first thing in our healing journeys is to get an understanding of what your illness or disease is mirroring back to you. So AIDS and HIV for me was mirroring back to me how ugly and unattractive I felt. Because that's what, when I really ask myself, how does this disease make me feel? It made me feel ugly, it made me feel unattractive, and it made me feel unwanted. I felt like if people knew this about me, if they knew that, I had AIDS, that they wouldn't want me anymore. They wouldn't be attracted to me anymore. They would think I was ugly or I was undesirable. And that feeling I had been feeling for the majority of my life, because I grew up being teased as a kid, as a young kid, because I was bigger than my peers. So I was thicker, I was a little more, and I was called chubby and fat for the majority of my life, and made to feel like my body was undesirable and that I was unattractive. And I felt that. And so I carried shame around my looks and around my body for the majority of my life. And the manifestation of AIDS, and this is how we manifest disease. Now, I want to be very clear the difference between manifestation and create. Like, you don't create your disease. And there's a lot of things out there that say, like, you created it with your, you attracted the disease to you. And it's not necessarily that you attracted it to you, because it's not something that, like, is an enemy or something coming to you. And create kind of has the connotation that you wanted it. Like, creation, what we create is something usually that we do from a space of intention, that we do from a space of desire. Nobody creates illness or disease or challenge or dysfunction intentionally, but you still manifest it. Everything in your life you're manifesting. And there's a difference, right? So creation is something that I desire, right, for myself, and I may have a certain intention for that, and then that gets manifested from my desire. Manifesting is, again, everything that is in your external reality that you're living, your experiences, the events, the relationships you have, how those people are responding to you in those relationships. That is a mirror reflection of the internal state of being that you're holding, which means it's a mirror reflection of some belief you hold about yourself somehow. And sorry, I'm getting a little cramp in my leg. I just came from the gym. Is a belief that you hold somehow, and how you feel about yourself, right? So how you emotionally feel, right? And usually the pattern that you emotionally feel. And the disease is going to mirror that. It's going to mirror that. It's going to mirror a belief that you held. And the disease usually is going to mirror a belief that you hold that is disconnected from the truth, from your divine truth, right? So your divine truth is that you're worthy, you're safe, that you're loved and lovable, and that, you deserve good things. You deserve all the good things, whatever you want, right? So when we get disconnected from that belief somehow, like I did, I was made to feel, instead of being worthy and lovable just as I am, I was made to feel that I wasn't enough, and that I wasn't worthy, and that something was wrong with me. And when you hold that belief for so long, that drains life force energy out of you, because you can't believe something that is opposite to the truth of yourself and have life force energy flow through your body. Life force energy needs your truth. It needs your divine truth to come through, right? So HIV and AIDS, I manifested that. I manifested it from my feelings of shame. Disease does not start in the body. It actually starts in the consciousness and in the energy. It starts in the vibration. Well, actually, the first place it starts is in the consciousness. So you get disconnected from the truth of yourself some type of way. Then you start to hold a vibration. Once you start to hold these beliefs about yourself, it becomes what you think is true about you. And then that's how you start to feel. You start to emotionally feel, and you start to vibrate. And your vibration is what the universe takes and manifests all of your experiences, relationships, events to be a reflection of that vibration. So even the health of your body has to be a reflection of your vibration. So my vibration was, there's something wrong with me. I'm not enough. I'm not desirable. And I held that for years. So one, that drained life force energy from me. So my body was like, hey, you're too drained, right? And so here's the disease, and the disease is going to mirror back exactly how I've been feeling that was draining my life force, which was shame, which was unlovable and unworthy, right? Kidney failure for me, the reflection that kidney failure came for me was kidney failure, when I tuned into and looked at how did it make me feel emotionally, kidney failure made me feel unfree. It made me feel imprisoned. It made me feel in bondage. Like I couldn't really live the life I wanted to live because here I was doing dialysis 3 days a week. I had, like, at the time I had a catheter in my chest, and it just wasn't, I didn't feel free. I didn't feel in my own body. I didn't feel like I was myself. And as I began to tune into that, again, I had been feeling that all of my life because I had never really lived a life where I felt free because I was never really truly being myself. I was suppressing my sexuality at the time because I'm a same gender loving person. But at the time, I was afraid. I grew up in a culture and an environment that made me feel like that there was something wrong with me for being attracted to the same gender, and that because there was something wrong, I was going to be rejected and abandoned and actually maybe even hurt, like physically hurt. So I suppressed that. I didn't ever really live that out in the light. I didn't speak about it. I didn't tell. There were very few people that knew, and if they found out by accident. So I never really felt like I was living my life out loud and free with that. I also knew that I was an intuitive and that I had intuitive gifts and psychic gifts when I was very young. When I was about 5 years old is when I figured out I had my first, when I figured out I had gifts and that I could read energy and I could speak to people on the other side, and that I was different. And again, I grew up in a culture and an environment that was predominantly very religious, and that those things were looked at as wrong. And those things were looked at as unholy and sinful. And so, again, I suppressed those things. And while I had this desire to share those things in the world, and I had these desires to speak about the spiritual truths that I knew and that I was learning, I would suppress those things for fear of being rejected, for fear of what people were going to say. But, you know, the trying to protect myself in those ways led me to playing very small. And led me to feeling very confined in my life. And also I was conditioned, I had all this conditioning that was going on about, you know, get a good job and be professional and all these things. So while I was, you know, so I was in this job, I was working this job at the time when all of this, when the diseases first manifested, I was working this job at the time that what I really wanted to do in the world at that time, I wanted to sing. I wanted to graduate from college and I wanted to sing. I wanted to be a singer. And here I was, you know, I was working as a counselor and a case manager, and I was starting to feel the hole in my heart because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was experiencing stress in my job. I wasn't very happy. I wasn't happy with myself because I felt, you know, fat and unlovable and wrong. I was suppressing my sexuality and not really living out my life out in the truth and fully. I wasn't living my life how I wanted to live. And that type of living where we're not living our truth, and not just with truth, not just talking about your sexuality, but your personality. If you're not living based upon your beliefs, if you're not saying what you really want to say, if you're not living how you really want to live, no matter what that looks like, right? If you're not doing the things that your inner cravings are calling you for, like for me, it was like singing and sharing my spiritual and intuitive gifts and teachings and all of that type of stuff. That is a very suppressed life. And that made me feel like my life was a prison in some ways. It wasn't delicious. I wasn't really happy, and I didn't feel free. And that was exactly the mirrored reflection that kidney failure made me feel like. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel free. I didn't feel like I was living my own life and that I belonged to myself anymore. And so that was the mirrored reflection. So remember, when I started this show today, I wanted to talk to you about disease as a mirror and an invitation. So that's how it mirrors first. It mirrors to us where we've been disconnected from the truth of ourselves and where we've been living a life that's drained life force energy from us. And it becomes an invitation. It shows up as an invitation, not as a punishment and not as an enemy. It shows up as an invitation to come back home to the truth of our being, to the divine truth of who we are, and our personal truth, meaning to live a life that is really ours, that expresses who we are, that nourishes who we are, and then is very joyful. We are here to live happy and incredible lives. I'm not just saying that flippantly. I'm not just saying that as some flippant, social media philosophy. This is why the soul comes. The soul comes to the physical lifetime to be happy, to feel good, and to have a delicious experience. Delicious to it, right? Each one of us, what our delicious is going to be different from the person sitting next to us. It's going to be different from our lovers. It's going to be different from our family members. It's going to be different from our peers. It came for your version of delicious. And when disease manifests in our life, it's an invitation to come back to stop living the life that isn't who we are. To stop living in whatever way that is, right? Whatever way this is. To stop living the life that's not who you are and begin living the life that is truly you and that truly nourishes you and that truly feels good to you and that truly charges your energy. And once you do that, once you make the shift, right? So once you fix what's in that mirror, see, that's another thing about with healing with diseases, when I work with individual clients who have, so when people come to me who have illnesses or diseases, it's not about, I don't really talk about fighting the disease because again, it's not an enemy. I really put the focus on healing the journey, cleaning the mirror, right? And not the mirror itself, right? Because the mirror is the disease, not trying to clean up the mirror, cleaning the reflection. It's I forgot who said this, but it's if you want to fix the reflection in the mirror, fix your face. Fix your face, right? Fix whatever that is on your face that you're wanting to see differently in the mirror. And that's how you see a different reflection in the mirror. So my healing journey was to heal the shame I felt around my body, to stop feeling shame around and to start feeling enough and to feel beautiful and to do whatever I could with that, to change my thoughts about it and to change my feelings about my body. Right? To change the relationship I had with my body to one of love and celebration and cherishment. Right? That's how I began to heal from HIV and AIDS. Kidney failure was about living a life, making the shift for myself from living a life where I felt bondage to one that I felt really free. One that it felt like truly be and really free. Right. And that was learning how to do what made me feel most alive. Right. That was about not suppressing any aspect of myself anymore. And this is why I do these type of videos now. Right. Where I'm sharing my spiritual wisdom and talking about my intuitive gifts and helping people in the world with my wisdom and with my gifts. This all came out of my intention to begin to live a life that was more in alignment with who I really am. And the thing that happens is when you start to, one, clean the mirror up, right? The reflection changes. So the more I began to feel enough and worthy, and the more I began to bleed the shame out of my vibration and out of my energy, the more my body just began to heal almost on its own. Without me having to change my diet, without me having to do any of that stuff, it began to heal on its own. The same with my kidneys. My kidneys continue to get better and better and better and better. The more I begin to live a life that makes me feel free and that makes me feel true. Right? And see, here's the thing about, and I'm going to do another video. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in this video tonight, but we'll do another video for sure talking about Lifeforce energy. But when you begin to fuel your body with Lifeforce energy, it heals itself. The body knows what to do to heal itself. It has all of the wisdom. All it needs is the right fuel. You give your body the right fuel that it needs, it's going to be healthy and it's going to thrive on its own. Your immune system is going to thrive. Whatever that is that you're experiencing, whatever the disease is, the answer to healing happens on the soul level. Especially with chronic illnesses and diseases. The healing happens on the soul level, meaning it happens on the energy level. You change the energy. That's because that's where it started. It starts in the energy level. The body is going on in the energy level for a long time, and then the body begins to reflect what's happening in the energy to you. When you change the energy, the body has to change its reflection to you. So shame and fear and suppression were illness. They were illness vibrations. They are still illness vibrations, for not just for me, but for any of us. You cannot hold shame and fear and suppression in your being for a long time and stay healthy in your body. You just can't do it. The body's not designed to hold those energies within it. It's designed, again, to hold the energy of the soul, and the soul does not feel like shame or fear or suppression. The soul feels like worthiness and appreciation and acceptance and freedom, right? So the more you give the body the energy of the soul, the healthier it becomes. That's what your healing journey really is about. And so the invitation that the disease has come to give you, to offer you, really is like, take my hand, journey with me back to the energy of your soul and back to a life that nourishes the energy of your soul instead of depletes it. So it mirrors to you, right, whatever your illness is, whether it's cancer, diabetes, some, immune system thing, whatever it is, if you will tap into it and you will really learn how to tap into it, you will see it's mirroring back to you some way you've been feeling about yourself and some belief you've been holding for a long time. And your healing journey is going to be to switch that belief to a more loving belief. Right, to a belief that is in alignment with the truth of your being, which is love, right? And the more you begin to have more love-based beliefs, you begin to clean, what's what the mirror is reflecting, and so what the reflection is gets cleaned, and it becomes healthy, right? And then you begin, and then the second part is this. This is why I say a lot of times to stop placing the majority of the focus of your healing journey on trying to heal your body. Like, instead of trying to heal your body, heal your life. Heal your energy. And your body will follow. Guaranteed. You heal your life and your energy, your body will follow. Right? So make a point in looking at how can you be happy? What do you need to do to live a joyful, delicious life? Right? For me, that was to do work that I loved in the world, instead of work that instead of listening to all these external voices that said I have to be professional and just get a job to pay the bills. Let me do something I loved instead. And instead of suppressing myself and hiding myself to try and gain approval and belonging, let me be myself and let me radiate and attract to people to me that will love me for me, right? Let me feel good about myself. And instead of running the inner narratives that were not mine in the first place, that were given to me by somebody else, that said my body's not enough, let me change those narratives to it is enough. And then let me live a life that is joyous, that's filled with love and connection and passion and things I love to do, like cooking and teaching and writing and traveling and being with good friends and eating Mexican food and laughing and sharing and talking, deep soulful conversations with people that I love. That's nourishing to me. And I had to build a life that was based and centered and saturated in what nourished me. And the more I did that, the more my body began to heal. The more I began to see I was never at war in my body in the first place. My body was never at war with me. It was waiting on me to do what I needed to do to fuel myself and to reconnect myself to the truth of my being, which is I'm lovable, I'm worthy, I'm safe, and I deserve good things just as I am. Right? Those were the two parts, right? To change your thinking and change your energy, and then to live a life that is joyous and that tastes delicious to you. That's why you're here. And when we're not doing that, and when we've been not doing that for a long enough time, our bodies will help us out by manifesting some type of illness or disease to help get our attention so we can stop. We can stop living that way. Because just like with your car, if your gas light didn't come on when you're low on fuel, what's going to happen? You're going to run out of gas, and you're going to run out of gas probably in a very inopportune way, like right in the middle of the highway or something like that. And that's the end, or you're going to mess your car up, and that's going to be the end of it. So if illness didn't manifest for us, we just transition out of this lifetime. We just die. Illness is like our opportunity. It's the invitation to save our lives. I say this in a very true way. And a very real and honest and the deepest truth that I know, AIDS and kidney failure didn't come to kill me. They came to save me. They saved my life. They literally helped me change from living a very small, a very painful, a very shameful, and a very fearful life to a life that is, they brought me back home to myself, to a life that is fully me, and that I love living, and that tastes really delicious to me, and that's thriving, and that's more delicious than anything I could have ever imagined before. And so if you're experiencing some illness or disease, I invite you to shift out of the viewpoint that this disease is here as a punishment or a betrayal or an enemy that you need to fight. And instead begin to dive into what is this disease trying to get my attention to? Not necessarily what it's trying to teach me about, right? But what's the message it has for me about how I've been living, and what is it inviting me to live instead? What's the message it has for me for how I've been living? This is something you can journal with tonight. You can even, just as you're laying in bed, you can put your hand on your heart and do like 3 or 4 deep breaths and ask your own body, like, what is the message you have for me through this illness or this disease? What are you wanting to get my attention to? And what are you trying to invite me to instead? What type of life are you trying to invite me to? And one of the key ways is like, how would you live? And key ways to understand it is, how would you live if you were fully healed tomorrow? If this particular illness or disease was fully gone from you, and it was completely healed tomorrow, how would you live your life differently? What would you do? You know, I know for me, when I used to think about the well version of me, I saw him writing, I saw him speaking and teaching and speaking about how loving ourselves is the key to well-being. I used to see him traveling a lot and seeing his friends and cooking. I saw him reconnecting to his love for exercise and sports. And instead of waiting and putting that off for some future time, like if I heal or when I heal, that's what I'm going to do. That's your soul saying, this is who you're wanting to be now. Now. Not later, not after. Now. This is the key to your well-being. Now. Be this person today. Bring that person into your body and into your being today. Right? And so that's how disease is not an enemy. It's not against us. Our bodies are not against us. They're not fighting against us. They haven't betrayed us. They are loving us by trying to save us and trying to help us make the positive shift in our lives so that we can begin to, one, believe and feel about ourselves the way our soul believes and feels about us, and then live a life that nourishes and charges our energy, that makes us happy, that makes us feel alive, that feels delicious and juicy to us, instead of one that stresses us out, that makes us feel small, that is disconnected from happiness and our joy, and, keeps us not taking risk and not moving towards what we really want for ourselves. We didn't come for that type of life. Our soul didn't come for that type of life, and our body was not created to sustain that type of life. And if we want our bodies to heal and we really want it to be well, we've got to give our bodies the type of life that makes them healthy, which is a happy life, a joyous life, and a life that is filled with our truth. I hope this has helped you all. I see some of your comments. I don't see any questions, but I see many of your loving comments. So many of you all are saying, disconnected from your divine truth, and this is deep, and bleed the shame out of my body. Yeah, all of that, love, this is all that. So, as always, I love you all. If you have any questions and you just didn't post it during the live, be sure to post it in this video. I may respond to it in a future post or in the next video. Until next time, go love yourself. I love you. Bye.